Okay, so I'm going to kick off. So, welcome. This is a new event for us. So, first and foremost, we really would welcome any feedback that you have in writing, email, phone call, whatever you prefer, during or after the event. But thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, housekeeping. So again, this is a slightly different event for us. So my name is Sailesh Patel. I'm the president for the Samaj. This is a discussion forum, so it's not a work thing. So there is no pressure to stand up or, it's not like you're going to get promoted or anything like that. So there's no pressure in whatever you do. If you want to sit back and listen, by all means, but please do share your thoughts as well. We sometimes find that the quietest people actually have some of the most valuable things to say. So we've got some facilitators in the room who will be encouraging you to talk during the sessions as well, but we won't force you to do any of that stuff. Please don't be shocked if any questions come up that you weren't expecting to come up. This is a totally open forum. It's why it's called the Hot Topics Forum. And please do the survey for us. I would appreciate that. So, to kick things off, I'm going to show a little video, and that should hopefully set the scene. So, those of you who are at the dinner and dance won't have seen the video, but you'll be able to relate to this. So, bear with me one sec while I work with the technology. So, hopefully, the volume's okay.
So, what does it take to live to 100 or beyond? As you will see, the answer is not what we expect. Julianne Holt-Lunstad is a researcher at Brigham Young University, and she addressed this very question in a series of studies of tens of thousands of middle-aged people, and she looked at every aspect of their lifestyle, their diet, their exercise, their marital status, how often they went to the doctor, whether they smoked or drank, etc. She recorded all of this, and then she and her colleagues sat tight and waited for 7 years to see who would still be breathing. And of the people left standing, what reduced their chances of dying the most? That was her question. So let's now look at her data in summary, going from the least powerful predictor to the strongest. Whether you're lean or overweight, you can stop feeling guilty about this because it's only in third place. How much exercise you get is next, still only a moderate predictor. Did anybody here know that having a flu vaccine protects you more than doing exercise? And getting towards the top predictors are two features of your social life. First, your close relationships. These are the people that you can call on for a loan if you need money suddenly, who will call the doctor if you're not feeling well, or who will take you to the hospital, or who will sit with you if you're having an existential crisis, if you're in despair. Those people, that little clutch of people, are a strong predictor, if you have them, of how long you'll live. And then something that surprised me, something that's called social integration. This means how much you interact with people as you move through your day. How many people do you talk to? And these mean both your weak and your strong bonds. So not just the people you're really close to who mean a lot to you, but like, do you talk to the guy who every day makes you your coffee? Do you talk to the postman? Do you talk to the woman who walks by your house every day with her dog? Do you play bridge or poker or have a book club? Those interactions are one of the strongest predictors of how long you live.
Okay, so there was mention of a club there. The Samaj is your born club. This is your right to be here, and that family is extending. So we really want to make the most out of that. So before I explain a bit more about this event in particular, I just want to tell you a little bit more about the family tree that you guys saw towards the back. So stand up, Mama's over there. Mama, you want to stand up for a second? So about 3 years ago, I knew this man's face. I didn't really know him that well, and about that time, I found out he's actually my mama's sister. So on that family tree is him, his son, and his grandson. And my mother-in-law is, I think, 3 generations away related to Sandra Mama, which means my kids and his kids share blood. And I had no idea. And we basically need to kind of rekindle those connections, whether it's blood or the fact that we live and work in West London. We have these connections, and we're really just trying to make the most out of that because of the video that you've just seen. So anything that we can do to do that is to us is a good cause. Okay, so in relation to this event, we have 2 goals. So we've got 2 goals and 2 streams of people. So the 2 streams are going to be the 18 to 35-year-olds and the 35 to 65-year-olds. It just makes it more practical, and we've all got slightly different conversations to have. But if we can all walk away by the end of today with 2 outcomes, we realise we're all connected and we tap into the network that we already are. And the network is growing rather than shrinking. We've all got friends and family in the areas that we live, in the professions that we're in. And once we get to know each other, we tend to be more comfortable with making those introductions and helping each other out. Hence, tapping into the LPS World's memberships, connections, and wealth of diverse experience for professional and personal growth for all of us. And then part 2 to this is the sort of thing that you won't do when you're at work, is using these resources to take a holistic view of your own life. It's the thing that I found, and I'm sure you guys will agree, the pace of life in London is just too crazy. Air quality is rubbish. There's lots of downsides to it, but yes, we can earn quite a good living, and we do have everything we want in terms of transport and all those things as well. And so we need to discuss and address those issues and see how it affects each of us. So yeah, those are the 2 elements to what we're trying to do today. So the agenda is, it's 2:35 now, so we're running okay. I do ramble, so I will speed up as much as I can.
Tell me about it.
What was that?
I said, tell me about it.
We've got Chris Ward, who's our main speaker. So Chris is over there. He's over there. So he'll be joining us in a little while. He's got some amazing stories to tell. And then we'll break out into the sessions, which will take us to 5:30. During that time, there'll be facilitators. You'll get to discuss various topics that we've had emailed in to us, and also happy to take some last-minute ones as well. And we'll all get to discuss all of those. We come back together, and then we cross-refer to each other's outcomes. And by 6 o'clock we'll close, and then it's drinks, dinner, and me. That's the agenda for the day. So introductions. I'm going to do quick introductions, and then we're going to go straight into talking to, well, hearing from Chris. So, Chris, I've got some notes here just to give you any background to you. So you've probably seen his information on the information sheet we sent out. So he's an author, activist, cyclist, and coffee geek. He left school with 1 art qualification, but built 2 successful commercial marketing agencies. Then went on to become the creative director at Comic Relief. He's also director on the legacy of the 2010 FIFA World Cup and the legacy board member for the 2012 Olympics. He's worked with organisations like the Nelson Mandela Foundation to engage millions of people through causes, and his books and research give ordinary people an insight into how ordinary people can achieve extraordinary lives. And just about 2 or 3 months ago, he cycled, as in a bicycle, not a motorbike, from Delhi all the way down to Mumbai. So he spent an entire day sitting in the back of McDonald's, cooling off in the heat. So I'm sure he's got some stories to tell about that as well. We also have Hero, who is, was that everyone on mic?
Hi.
So she's first generation here, Gujarati. She's a life coach. She's one of those, whoa, she's not an accountant or a pharmacist sort of profession. So it's good to have her here. She should be facilitating. That's Hero. Jiten Patel is actually from RM so much. Very quiet member. I only found out a few weeks ago, although I've known him since I was a kid, that he's the head of equality, diversity and information rights at the Open University. And he's won an award for excellence in diversity, the Excellence in Diversity Awards winner for 2015, and he's a champion for the education sector. So these are the sorts of people that we've got here today for you. Sponsors, mentioned Tina, so thank you very much. Tina's doing this totally free of charge, so thank you so much for doing that. Wealth Max are stuck in traffic on the Chiswick roundabout, so they will be coming. They're a financial advice and wealth management company. They're one of our sponsors for today. And we have the Barclays crew as well, and they've got a table. So, very quickly, we'll put the spotlight on a few people in the audience. Ryan, is he in the room?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan's at the back. So you've seen on an email recently and also on a poster that he, for us, is a success story. Through our connections and through his insight and his family, we've been able to help him get onto the life career of working ladder, really. So please do, if you're one of the younger crews, please do have a chat with him, just so you can share his experiences. Anand and Minesh, please do stand up and tell them. They'll be facilitating the rooms. They've worked at big companies as well, so they're quite good at that stuff. Thank you to the subcommittee, which is Rajaway, Preeti, myself, and Abdubai. Babita's not been able to make it. And Jayasbhai, if you could stand up as well. So this is another one of our awesome members. We found out the other day, but he's a pensions guru. So he's not a pensioner, but he's a pensions guru. He works at Willis, which is a huge company that advises massive companies on their pension stuff. So you can chat with him. He's not here to advise you formally, but as a member, you're welcome to talk to him as much as you want. So he'll be also in that stream. And yourself, so please do participate and get involved as much as you can. Okay, I'm going to show you one last video before we get on to Chris. So line the movement.
God damn it, guys.
That's
I mean, Bombay is the restaurant capital of the world, right?
One second. Going to the presentation. Thank you.
Should be undercover. Great. The Queen looks nice, doesn't she?
Nice? Of course nice. Because she's Indian.
The Queen?
All of them, the whole royal family Indian.
What are you talking about?
Now think about it, yeah? Huh? Descended from Queen Victoria, Empress of India, so Indian.
Rubbish.
Not rubbish, look at them. Huh? They all live in the same family house together, Indian. All work in the family business, Indian. All have arranged marriages, Indian. They all have sons. Daughters no good, Indian. Children live with their parents and they are married, Indian. What do you want? You want them to put on turbans and jump snakes out of baskets?
How many rules out Fergie?
They are Indian. All except Prince Charles. He's African. If he was Indian, he'd have smaller ears.
So we had an African in the front row just laughing. Okay, I wanted to show that because from the songwriter's perspective, we're about 30 years old now, and it's interesting to see what's changed in one generation. So there's no more big JPC TVs and wallpaper or pullovers. But the other things that have changed, how many of you guys are actually involved in a family business now? Whereas a lot of us grew up in one, so that's completely shifted. All living under one roof until married, that's pretty rare. Whole families living together, that's even rarer. All having arranged marriages, I think people just generally are happy if kids just settle down, so that's changed. Boys being better than girls, I think there's a massive movement to say the exact opposite is true. But that's the sort of thing. So the other observations that we've had, again, this will kind of set the scene for the stream talks. Are we really working harder and smarter than the last generation? So I remember talking to Laszlo Gabby, who was one of the old presidents, and he was saying to me that we educated you guys so you wouldn't have to work as hard and graft as much as that generation had to. But it's actually gone completely in reverse, where we're on the phone all the time, we're working even longer hours than they did in the laundries and the shops. So it's not quite what everyone anticipated. So we're actually really working harder and smarter. And the financial pressures they had, we don't really have those. Yet, why do we keep doing it? So are we overworking, and if so, why? We've got smaller family circles. So even though connectivity is now in our favour to stay in touch more, it seems to have gone that we've gone into smaller circuits. Although we have extended networks that are wider. There's greater distances between the houses, and there's more multiple houses now, so we don't really see each other in the same way that we used to. The way we do holidays, weddings, all those social interactions has changed as well. So those all, again, are all things that may come up when you break out into your streams, and you can figure out if that's something that we can change or whether it's something we work with, as it were. So the other good side to all of this change and have just all of us being caught up in screenshots is that there are a huge range of professions and skills around as well. So the usual suspects are here: businesses, personal services companies, finance, banking, medical crew. Although Jim, if anyone's interested, one of his cousins does some sort of crazy nanotech science thing, which is the sort of thing you see in the Terminator movie. So if you like that sort of science, then he's definitely the person to talk to. Legal and HR, the property side has really grown, and that's just a London thing. But whether you're an agent, you're a developer, you're an owner, you're a lender, IT's big. Obviously that wasn't around at all 30 years ago. Project management, and then these are the slightly more unusual suspects that are in the room and also in the network that we have. We've got Jiddu Madal, who works at the Open University. We've got someone who's running a team that does the Formula One filming around the world. So if you're interested in learning more about broadcast media, he's definitely one to talk to. Marketing, advertising, design, print, catering. Actually, I haven't said thank you to Doug Silla, who's looking after all the catering, but I'm sure you'll eat her food and meet her later on. Actuaries, engineering, charity, property. We've got a singer in the side. That I didn't know till about a year ago. We've got dancer, actress, theatre, makeup, child and social welfare officers, coaching, rehabilitation, school teachers. It's great to be able to tap into that sort of wide knowledge, and a whole lot more. I just don't know who they all are. It'd be nice to connect with all these messages. So, right, that's enough of me. We're doing really well for time. So, Chris, you're up. Your slides are on here. I can stand here and click for you if you want, but I think you're fairly self-sufficient. Thank you, everyone.
Hi everybody. I feel almost unqualified to be here, for obvious reasons probably. Apart from the fact that in the Goodness Gracious Me video, obviously the Indians claim to the British royal family are Indian, and I married a woman with a Greek father who would claim exactly the same on behalf of the Greeks. So I married into a big community which I feel is quite similar to an Indian community, which is very dissimilar to my upbringing. But just my other little credibility of being here is, as Shailesh said, is cycling to Mumbai from Delhi, which I did on my own, but didn't start on my own. The other guy got Delhi belly on the end of the first day, and I just stuck to paneer curry for 11 days. Had 11 different paneer curries and managed to get there the whole way without getting ill. But it was an amazing ride, one of the best things I've done in my life. Because I can ride bikes, I did 100 miles every day, which is actually only 6 hours of riding, and the rest of the time is to meet people and eat local food and enjoy the culture and just have a great time. It got really hot the nearer I got to Mumbai, so I had to literally get up at dawn and be on the road at sort of 6:30 in the morning and finish by lunchtime because it was 40 degrees, it was way too hot to ride. So I did that route, as you can see through your area. Amazing help. There's 10,000 members of Delhi Cyclist Club. I've also just ridden in China, and there's cycle clubs everywhere in the world, and they've all got Facebook pages, and you just get in contact and say, you know, I'm interested in riding this route, and the help is phenomenal. And the help from here was just mad. I had so much support and ideas. So this was like immediately you saying, "Oh, try this road, not this road, this road, this road," and then it just got extreme. There was just so much information that I was being offered by this group, but they were brilliant. Only 3 of them had ever done this ride, but the support was amazing. So this just, if this video plays, and we're going to play this video. Should I press that button? This is how mad it was riding. Then there wasn't 1 second without a beeping horn from somewhere. But if obviously my mates would say you're mad, everyone said you're mad to do that bike ride. Even most of the Indian Delhi Cycling Club said you're mad to do that ride. And I was surrounded like that every time I went near a town, obviously, and the other half was on main roads where I just had vans coming straight towards me on the hard shoulder. But no one had, there was no aggression about it at all, not once, not one person did I feel was having a go at me with their vehicle, which as soon as I ride out of this, if I cycled out here now, within probably 500 metres, some car would make some movement towards me in some slightly aggressive way. There wasn't any of that, it was just amazing. Everyone was so friendly. And so I managed to get there, back. So everybody, all the time, all day long, I was chatting to people on their mopeds who were going past, all just riding alongside me, or riding behind, or riding in front and changing their mirror so they could watch me. And it was a bit, I felt like slightly unusual, a little bit of an animal in a zoo, that everybody was just fascinated by this mad person riding on his bike. And on the ride was I had to go through so many tolls all the time, which is when all the trucks and lorries came together. When out the other side of the toll was like the most dangerous point, and everyone just wanted to escape out of the toll booth as fast as they could. Whenever I stopped, this was actually my mate too, so this is on day one with him, and then he left after then when he got ill. But whenever I stopped on my own, I was just surrounded by 40 or 50 people, and if one person could speak English and they just translated, so I never could escape on my own. And when I went to get back on my bike, all 50 people would just walk over and stand around me while I got back on the bike, so everything had to be so right all the time. And that was just before I spoke to Shailesh after my first McDonald's sign, and I spoke to Shailesh on WhatsApp to check whether I could actually have a McFlurry, because I was desperate for a McFlurry, and whether it was going to be safe to have that, so obviously I'd stuck to a paneer vegetarian diet for 10 days. But he said yes, so I sat there and enjoyed aircon and a McFlurry. And then that was me at the end, and just finally to show how helpful they were, this guy volunteered to come out. He bought a cardboard box and I could put my bike in. He sorted out an Uber to get me to the airport. I'd never met this guy, he just heard I was arriving, really friendly, took me for breakfast and that. And that was because I had no other way of getting to the airport and getting my bike on a plane. I needed some support, and he was amazing. So it was an amazing trip. And it just felt like India was really alive. It was very different to what I expected. It just was amazing. It was a bit like Mad Max in a way. It was just so vibrant and so alive the whole time. But so that was good. Came back, and I was going to say all the things that Shailesh said at the start of all these things I've done. They're because I was a perfectionist, or am a perfectionist still, and actually that was completely to the detriment of community. And so I think my other credibility of being here is probably that I've learned to go from completely work-focused to being very community and family-focused. And so I was going to go through how I've gone from one to the other, really. So I grew up in a very 60s English upbringing, which was very arm's length. It was never the case that my dad would ever cuddle me and say well done or anything. It felt like the term is a conditional love. I felt I had to earn the love of my parents by doing well, but I didn't do well, so I didn't earn any love. As I said, I was useless at school. I thought I was useless at school. In hindsight, it's a trait of perfectionists to be all or nothing. When you're into something, you're into it to the extreme. I'll look after it, thanks. I don't want to know what you think. I can do this. And as soon as you don't believe you can make something perfect, you don't want to know about it anymore. So that's why people think certain perfectionists are always bored with work. They always want to move on. They're not bored. They've just decided, I can't make this job isn't for me, so therefore I don't want anything to do with it anymore. I want to leave and do something else. And that was with me at school. I just felt I could never be good in this class, so I just had no interest. And obviously, I'm relatively intelligent, but literally I was bottom of every class in school because I had no interest, not because I was stupid. But didn't know that at the time, thought I was stupid, thought I couldn't get in the football team, thought I was unsporty, and essentially that is the trait of the perfectionist. Perfectionism happens essentially before you're an adult. At some point in that process of growing up, you feel you are not good enough. And I got to 20 and I left home, and my main job was to prove to my dad I was good enough, because I felt that was the only way that he was going to love me. And so, because it was an English upbringing, that had to be through work and achieving through work. That's what I thought my dad would understand. So that's why I set up businesses and I sold them, and I remember ringing my dad up and saying I've become a millionaire, sold my company, and they just went, oh, well done, and sent me a card, said well done, and it didn't feel enough. And my dad was in a cycling club when I was growing up, which was horrendous to me. The fact that this bloke would walk in with loads of coloured clothes on, and I wouldn't know what it was about at all, but I felt I had to become a cyclist at 40 because my dad brought me up on a bike, and I came second in my first race, and it still didn't impress him. And I was in tears at home with Helen when I was 40 because my dad still wasn't impressed. And but that is now becoming an epidemic, which I'll go on to, of this feeling of not being good enough, and therefore taking you away from community to prove to yourself, to prove to other people, to prove to yourself that you're good enough. So I met Helen, and that was the English arm's length upbringing meeting the Greek. So my family was made of 5 of us, me and my 2 sisters. Helen's family was made of 500 people, which was everybody they'd ever met, and was uncle or aunt or neighbours that were family. And the first time my mum and dad met Helen's mum and dad was to go round to Walthamstow for a meal, which obviously they thought was a meal involving 3 courses, and ate appropriately for 3 courses, and then hadn't planned for the other 6 courses that came following those first 3 courses. So it was a struggle, a clash of cultures there. So we got married 24 years ago, and we've split up twice and sold our house once and lived separately, and a lot of that is down to my perfectionism in that within a marriage and within a relationship, when you're all or nothing, and that could be all or nothing about where you're going on holiday, which perfectionists always leave that decision to the very last moment so that they can take in all the variables, all the information, and then make the perfect decision. So that causes arguments. How you parent your kids causes arguments. What you're going to eat, where you're going to go, what you're going to do, everything can cause an argument when one of you thinks they're right and needs it to be right, and the other person also thinks the same. So we had our problems, but we've gone over them, and we went to things like Relate, and we went to other counsellors and things, and none of them ever mentioned perfectionism, this thing of one of you feels like you've got to prove yourself worthy all the time, and that to the exclusion of your relationships. So eventually I've come to sort of understand it and what it's about, and it's helped us enormously to the extent that that's a family with Helen's mum in the middle and a dog, and it's brilliant. But it's taken me till 55 to work that out. Whereas I've been, a lot of what Shailesh was talking about is me working alone, away, working all night, just thinking about achieving to prove myself good enough. But now it's brilliant, it's come a good full circle. And what I was going to say is why it's an epidemic now, and the United Nations have identified this as an epidemic of young people feeling not worthy, and therefore spending their life with this in their head, that everything, I've got to control everything to be just right, is the main ones being academic pressure. Obviously schools, our 4 kids, one of them is doing GCSEs at the moment, the one in green, Rose. And so the pressure to do well at every single subject. You know, if you're good at sport, or good at saxophone, or good at English, you're still expected to be good at every other subject, which is impossible. But kids don't know that's impossible, they're told it is possible. So that's tough. And then obviously social media is the enormous change. So when we were growing up, it was about comparing yourself to your neighbours, as I said, the Smith & Jones, what in terms of products you bought, how big is their house, how new is their car. But now it's about comparing yourself with the perfect curated lives that people are sharing on social media about things that they do. And so that can only put you can never feel good enough for that, because it's also the biggest celebrities on social media in the world are all perfectionists, because they just crave the likes, they crave people's admiration more than they crave love. So they only share this perfect curated half of their life, and not the other half, which is the one that's ruined relationships and divorces and all night working and the feeling of anxiety and depression. So it's just rebounding itself all the time, and it's a spiral down essentially of kids becoming more pressurised to be perfect all the time and not feeling they can be. I think one of the things in this book I'm writing at the moment about my favourite childhood memories, and if you think now when a kid grows up, like I'd say essentially it was probably playing with my dad would be ultimately, because it happens so rarely. But now kids, what they do the most time, you can say, when in like 40 years time, they're going to say, my favourite childhood memory is spending all my time on Instagram, because that's what they do. And you think, surely they're not even going to think of that as a memory, but that is what they're doing for more hours than anything else, than playing outside or mucking about or being together with friends. So that's academic and social pressure has changed. People are now, it's all about doing things rather than buying things, which is great. Personally, I think that's great, but it's become a comparative, competitive thing, who's doing the best things. Parents do pressurise still, obviously. All parents essentially want their kids to be better versions of themselves. And it's when the kids realise that, and realise they're not, is when the problems arise. And so that's one problem. Out of office, so everybody's working out of offices now in coffee shops and things, and that's bringing in loneliness as a serious factor and a serious problem. And also the fact of automation in shops and the fact that no one's going shopping. So it's, every time a chain of shops closes down, it's another lost opportunity for a person to meet someone. Like they said, the number one thing for a long life is talking to the people you come in contact with every day. But at the moment, I can think certain days of what you don't come in contact with more than 2 or 3 people. Whereas it would literally be when you worked in an office and travelled, you would be in contact daily with 40, 50 people. But now it can be 2 or 3. For some people, it can be nobody. So that's a big problem. And we glorify perfectionists, as I was saying earlier, the most famous sports people, a lot of the main celebrities, big celebrities, the 2 suicides that happened to celebrities over the last week, the chef and the designer were both perfectionists in their life. So we need to, that's what I'm trying to do in my book, is let people understand it shouldn't be glorified, it should just be, you should realise what perfection is. It's a personality disorder that affects people. So how can we stop it? How can we help that not happen and put community first? Shirley, when I was speaking to Shirley, she said, how can we get kids to understand that community is important? And I was growing up, it was like the most boring thing I wanted nothing to do. I wanted to go off and earn money and be successful. And I wasn't interested at all. But I think the thing that me and Helen do now is so our kids range from 22 to 12, just checking. And so the 3 girls, the 2 oldest are at university, the boy is still at university, Bob, and the 3 girls were in the kitchen this morning, and I was working downstairs, Helen was out, and I could hear them all laughing together, and we were talking about it in the way here, it's the best thing ever, to hear your kids together, laughing together without you there. It was brilliant. And so I think our thing is that we almost provide an offline retreat. It's somewhere they can come and relax, that we don't put pressure on them at all. We just provide it's rules, but there's no pressure. We pay for them to do things together. So Rose is finishing her GCSEs on Friday, and we spent a fair amount of money so that her and Molly, her older sister, can go and see Beyonce and Jay-Z on Friday night together. So not us, they go together. And so we do that a lot. Rose and Audrey went to see Harry Styles the other week, so their memories that hopefully they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives and mean that they're still friends when they're in their 20s and 30s. We eat out quite a lot at Nando's normally, so it's not expensive, it's cheap, but it just means everyone's away from, for me personally, I'm away from the mess of my house and away from the mess of my mind, and I think it works for them as well, away from the mess and the pressure of social media. And it's just providing a place where they can have a cuddle and clothes washed and a meal and a cry and borrow some cash or just nick it if they need to. But just somewhere where there's unconditional love, it's not judgmental, and it's just somewhere they can just come and relax offline. As I say, I think that's the only way. Okay, I've seen it with Helen's Greek community, that's how it works at its very best. But then there's equally, in all communities, there's pressure from parents and there's pressure to succeed. And you can, as a parent, you can never hope to 100% stop your kids becoming perfectionists and going away from you, because that's what advertising is trying to do to them all the time. It's trying to show them they're not good enough. And our oldest daughter struggled with anorexia for a while, because she felt she needed to be better at the time, and luckily she's come through it. All you can do is do your best and be with unconditional love, really. And then only literally, I think the last thing I wrote here is that I'm being an example about community. We were just on the way last night. It was we needed an excuse to have some friends around, and luckily we looked up and it was International Gin Day. So you're lucky that either of us were in the States, we had to talk at all. So we had lots of friends around. Our kids always know that last night we had probably 12 people around, and there's always people around our house. We had a Russian event the other week of our dog's 50th birthday, because he was 7 years and 1/7 of a year old, so we had a party for that. There's always people in our house, and hopefully it's a good example for the kids that are growing up. that that's a good thing to do, and just invite everyone around all the time. So that's it. That's my little story, really. Hopefully it was helpful, and if anyone's got questions now or later, then I'm around. Thank you.
There's lots of questions, so if you guys want to ask anything, well, do
You see yourself as a controller?
As a
Someone who has to be in control.
That's what a perfectionist does, yeah. Yeah. So it's so I'm actually writing a chart because me and Helen have struggled over this. A perfectionist is all or nothing. So if
You find
it's
yourself difficult to delegate as well.
yeah, can't delegate because you're delegating to someone to do the job who doesn't care as much as you, to do it worse than you, and where you have to go and do something you don't want to do.
Probably describes me as well.
It's at least 5% of our age group, and as I say, it is becoming an epidemic.
Would you say it's the same as OCD?
No, there's clinically it isn't. OCD is something that people are aware that they have and aware that it's not a good thing, whereas a perfectionist just thinks they're right all the time and everyone else is wrong. It's a positive thing because of perfection. So OCD and perfectionism has to come on during childhood for it to be this ingrained personality disorder, whereas OCD can happen at any point. But there is a crossover. I have to check light switches, or if I think something, as soon as something's in my head, whether it happens to be a piece of work I haven't done or I left the oven on, I have to check it out. I can't get it out of my head. So there's a minor crossover, but it's not the same thing.
On a lighter note, did you invest in a good pair of earplugs when you were in India?
When was it? No, I was just so knackered, but
Because of the
noise,
yeah. But also,
during the day, for me it was good because it just meant I just knew where everybody was.
Yeah.
And they were all within 2 foot of me, but I knew exactly where the hill were at any point.
but also on a more serious note, you're talking about creating that safe space for your youngsters. How do you stop yourself, or how do you check expectations that you have of them?
I was thinking about this earlier actually, that because it's weird, because obviously you still want your kids to be successful, so in a way you want them to be a bit perfectionist, while teaching them not to be a perfectionist. And you don't want them to be lazy, or I don't want them, because that was ultimately what I grew up told not to be. So how to do it? It's like I haven't overcome this completely. I struggle, and I bite my lip, and I've learned. In terms of our own kids, my experience is through our community. The parents that are stricter have the bigger problems with their kids, and actually we always sit back and provide support for them, then it ends up a better environment. But we've had lots of bad arguments and lots of stress in the past. But at the moment, touch wood, it feels all right by stepping back.
How does your family see you? How do you
Probably a pain in the arse.
Well, Helen can answer.
Kids are never. The weird thing is, kids are generally not interested in what their parents do. I think it's that ours are not. Like, what are you doing? Oh, talking or whatever. Or tell me back. It's like, I don't know. How do they see you or us?
I don't think they completely understand really. I think because you do so much and with your cycle achievements, they're very blasé about it. You come back from India and be, oh hi, and that's it. There's no interest. I think hopefully when they grow up, they may understand it a bit more and be inspired by it. But at the moment, they don't show any kind of interest or
Right.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris. Okay, just from my perspective, so I got all out of that. Hopefully you got it. Round of applause for Chris. So, I've been following Chris on Facebook, and you can watch the videos of him almost crashing into people on his bicycle and saving himself as well a few times. And there's a lot to be learned. He's put out drafts of his book on Facebook as well, so it's definitely a good read. One of the things that I found when I started going on this journey of thinking a little bit differently about how to raise kids and all that stuff, all the heavy stuff, was you tend to procrastinate because you don't have to worry about it today. I'd rather just send that easy email to my boss at work because it's just going to take me 2 seconds. I know it's 8 o'clock at night, kids are eating, so let me just get that done. And then things just get pushed out there. So this next video I'm going to show you, it's a TED Talk, which is something that Andy actually introduced me to. So if you get a chance, watch TED Talks regularly. This one's about 15 minutes long, but it's really good. So please concentrate to the end because the end bit is probably the most valuable bit for the next session. So I'm going to just take you through that.
So in college, I was a government major, which means I had to write a lot of papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. So, you know, you get started maybe a little slowly. You get enough done in the first week that some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would have it all ready to go, but then actually the paper would come along, and then I would kind of do this. And that would happen in every single paper. But then came my 90-page senior thesis, a paper you're supposed to spend a year on. I knew for a paper like that, my normal workflow was not an option, it was way too big a project. So I planned things out, and I decided I kind of had to go something like this. This is how the year would go. So I'd start off light, and I'd bump it up in the middle months. And then at the end, I would kick it up into high gears, a little staircase. How hard did it just walk up the stairs? No big deal, right? But then, funniest thing happened. Those first few months, they came and went, and I couldn't quite do stuff. So we had an awesome new revised plan. And then those middle months actually went by, and I didn't really write words. And so we were here. And then 2 months turned into 1 month, which turned into 2 weeks. And one day I woke up with 3 days until the deadline, still not having written a word. And so I did the only thing I could. I wrote 90 pages over 72 hours, pulling out 2 all-nighters. Humans are not supposed to pull 2 all-nighters. Sprinted across campus, dove in slow motion, and got it in just at the deadline. I thought that was the end of everything. But a week later, I get a call. It's the school. And they say, "It's Tim Urban." And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "We need to talk about your thesis." I say, "Okay." And they say, "It's the best one we've ever seen." That did not happen. It was a very, very bad thesis. I just wanted to enjoy that one moment when all of you thought, "This guy is amazing." No, it was very, very bad. Anyway, today I'm a writer, blogger, guy. I write the blog Wait But Why. And a couple of years ago, I decided to write about procrastination. My behaviors always perplexed the non-procrastinators around me, and I wanted to explain to the non-procrastinators of the world what goes on in the heads of procrastinators and why we are the way we are. Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator. And so I could compare them, and I actually brought them here to show you today. And I want you to take a look carefully to see if you can notice a difference. And I know that if you're not a trained brain expert, it's not that obvious, but just take a look, okay? So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive. The monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel, and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan Tanya Harding scandal, because I just remembered that happened. Then we're going to go over to the fridge. We're going to see if there's anything new in there since 10 minutes ago. After that, we're going to go on a YouTube spiral that starts with videos of Richard Feynman talking about madness and ends much, much later with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. All of that's going to take a while, so we're not going to really have room on the schedule for any work today, sorry. Now, what is going on here? The instant gratification monkey does not seem like a guy you want behind the wheel. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things: easy and fun. Now, in the animal world, that works fine. If you're a dog, and you spend your whole life doing nothing other than easy and fun things, you're a huge success. And to the monkey, humans are just another animal species. He has to keep well slept, well fed, and propagating into the next generation. Which in tribal times might have worked okay. But if you haven't noticed, now we're not in tribal times. We're in an advanced civilization, and the monkey does not know what that is. Which is why we have another guy in our brain, the rational decision maker, who gives us the ability to do things no other animal can do. We can visualize the future. We can see the big picture. We can make long-term plans. And he wants to take all of that into account. And he wants to just have us do whatever makes sense to be doing right now. Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, like when you're having dinner, or going to bed, or enjoying well, or in leisure time. That's why there's an overlap. Sometimes they agree. But other times, it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. And for the procrastinator, that conflict tends to end a certain way every time, leaving him spending a lot of time in this orange zone, an easy and fun place that's entirely out of the make sense circle. I call it the dark playground. Now, the dark playground is a place that all of you procrastinators out there know very well. It's where leisure activities happen at times when leisure activities are not supposed to be happening. The fun you have in the dark playground isn't actually fun because it's completely unearned and the air is filled with guilt, dread, anxiety, self-hatred, all those good procrastinator feelings. And the question is, in this situation, with the monkey behind the wheel, how does the procrastinator ever get himself over here to this blue zone? A less pleasant place, but where really important things happen. Well, turns out that the procrastinator has a guardian angel, someone who's always looking down on him and watching over him in his darkest moments. Someone called the panic monster. Now, the panic monster is dormant most of the time, but he suddenly wakes up anytime a deadline gets too close or there's danger of public embarrassment, a career disaster, or some other scary consequence. And importantly, he's the only thing monkeys terrify of. Now, he became very relevant in my life pretty recently because the people of TED reached out to me about 6 months ago and invited me to do a TED Talk. Now, of course, I said yes. It's always been a dream of mine to have done a TED Talk in the past. But in the middle of all this excitement, the rational decision maker seemed to have something else in his mind. He was saying, are we clear on what we just accepted? Do we get what's going to be now happening one day in the future? We need to sit down and work on this right now. And the monkey said, totally agree, but also let's just open Google Earth and let's zoom into the bottom of India, like 200 feet above the ground, and we're going to scroll up for 2.5 hours till we get to the top of the country so we can get a better feel for India. So that's what we did that day. As 6 months turned into 4, and then 2, and then 1, the people of TED decided to release the speakers. and I opened up the website, and there was my face staring right back at me, and guess who woke up? So the panic monster starts losing his mind, and a few seconds later, the whole system's in mayhem. And the monkey, remember, he's terrified of the panic monster. Boom, he's up the tree. And finally, the rational decision maker can take the wheel, and I can start working on the talk. Now, the panic monster explains all kinds of pretty insane procrastinating behavior, like how someone like me could spend 2 weeks unable to start the opening sentence of a paper, and then miraculously find the unbelievable work ethic to stay up all night and write 8 pages. And this entire situation with the 3 characters, this is the procrastinator's system. It's not pretty, but in the end, it works. And this is what I decided to write about on the blog just a couple of years ago. Now, when I did, I was amazed by the response. Literally thousands of emails came in from all different kinds of people, from all over the world, doing all different kinds of things. These were people who were nurses, and bankers, and painters, and engineers, and lots of PhD students. And they were all writing saying the same thing. I have this problem too. But what struck me was the contrast between the light tone of the post and the heaviness of these emails. These people were writing with intense frustration about what procrastination had done to their lives, about what this monkey had done to them. And I thought about this, and I said, well, if the procrastinator system works, then what's going on? Why are all these people in such a dark place? Well, it turns out that there's 2 kinds of procrastination. Everything I've talked about today, the examples I've given, they all have deadlines. When there's deadlines, the effects of procrastination are contained to the short term because the panic monster gets involved. But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, something in the arts, something entrepreneurial, there's no deadlines on those things at first because nothing's happening at first, not until you've gone out and done the hard work to get some momentum, to get things going. There's also all kinds of important things outside of your career that don't involve any deadlines, like seeing your family, or exercising, taking care of your health, working on your relationship, or getting out of a relationship that isn't working. Now, if procrastinator's only mechanism of doing these hard things is the panic monster, that's a problem, because in all of these non-deadline situations, the panic monster doesn't show up, there's nothing to wait up for. So the effects of procrastination are not contained, they should stay outward forever. And it's this long-term kind of procrastination that's much less visible and much less talked about than the funnier short-term deadline-based kind. It's usually done quietly and privately, and it's the source of a huge amount of long-term unhappiness and regrets. And I thought, that's why these people are emailing, and that's why they're in such a bad place. It's not that they're cramming for some project. It's that long-term procrastination has made them feel like a spectator at times in their own lives. The frustration is not that they couldn't achieve their dreams, it's that they weren't even able to start chasing them. So I read these emails and I had a little bit of an epiphany that I don't think non-procrastinators exist. That's right, I think all of you are procrastinators. Now, you might not all be a mess, like some of us, and some of you may have a healthy relationship with deadlines. But remember, the monkey's sneakiest trick is when the deadlines aren't there. Now, I want to show you one last thing. I call this a life calendar. That's 1 box for every week of a 90-year life. That's not that many boxes, especially since we've already used a bunch of those. So I think we need to all take a long, hard look at that calendar. We need to think about what we're really procrastinating, because everyone is procrastinating on something in life. We need to stay aware of the instant gratification monkey. That's a job for all of us. And because there's not that many boxes on there, it's a job that should probably start today. Well, today. Sometimes soon. Thank you.
Did I bring true for anyone? that last point that he made, I just personalised it. So, 12 columns, 12 months, 90 years. The red boxes are the ones that I've already got in my life, so that's half. The yellow boxes are, if I lived to the same sort of age as my dad before he had a stroke, that's the yellow boxes, so I don't really have long. The grey boxes, if I live healthy to about 80. And the boxes at the top is if I live to 90, and the chances are I'll be a bit croaky and in a wheelchair for the last 10 years. So that's my life and half of it's gone. So I think the procrastinating point that he's trying to make is there is always this ultimate deadline. And I don't know how far I'm going to get to the grey and the green bit, to be honest with you. Why make it to the yellow bit. The blue bit on the side was just to show you my working life. So that's just a small component of my entire life. And the black bit is how long I've been a parent, or hopefully will be a grandparent. So that started when I was just around 30. So I think visually seeing that actually helps you make some better decisions in your life as well. Okay, so right, we're going to get into the hot topics now. So we're going to break in a few minutes, and we're going to break into the two groups. So Hero, again, when you stand up just for 1 second, people know who you